Hello, everybody. I want to thank everybody for joining us. It's Olga Tamanova, and Ukraine Media Center Ukrinform starts its operation today. Today is day 242 of the full-scale invasion of the Russian aggressor into Ukraine. And I want to thank everybody who tells the truth to the world about the heroic resistance of the Ukrainian people. Today, our team prepared such events for you. At 1300, we will have Serhii, head of the public council under the Odessa Oblast State Administration, and we'll talk about the current and safety-specific situation in the region. At 1400, we will have Pavlo Kherlenko, head of the Donetsk Oblast Military Administration. We'll talk about the situation in the region. And at 1430, we will have Andrei Klimenko, head of the monitoring group in the Institute for Black Sea Strategic Studies. And we'll talk about the situation with the export of Ukrainian grain and how to solve the existing crisis. And now we're having Serhii Khlan live with us online. He's the deputy of Kherson Regional Council. Hello, Mr. Serhii. Hello, we are from Ukraine. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. Mr. Serhii, the events in Kherson region are developing in a very steadfast manner. Just recently we've heard the declarations of the collaborationists about the actual deportation of the Ukrainian population. And yesterday we've heard the following narratives launched by the occupants about the creation of the territorial defense of Kherson region. Can you please comment on that? What's going on in Kherson region? Right. That's true. The situation is developing in quite a dynamic way. The occupants and collaborationists keep leaving the right bank of the river, along with the very intense pillaging and razing. The occupants steal the equipment from both private and government-controlled businesses and enterprises. They move it to the left bank of Dnieper and moving it all to Crimea. Within the last days, the occupants packed and stole all the museum exhibitions of Kherson Regional Museum, everything precious, anything of historical and archaeological value is being stolen by the occupants, and today we witness them even having stolen the monuments to Suvorov and Ishakov from the streets of Kherson. And there is information that they have plans of exhumating the remains of Potemkin, which is absolutely schizophrenic thing. But behind all these actions, we see Russian ruble to leave the right bank of the Dnieper as well, and the city of Kherson in general, as the rate of Russian ruble is being corrected on a day-to-day basis. Now it's being exchanged 1 to 2. Because just a few days ago it was 1 to 1.15. So in fact we witnessed the situation when nobody needs Russian ruble, and even the gas stations operated by Russian operators, they ran out of gas and they stopped accepting Russian ruble. And now we see occupants taking apart these gas station complexes and moving the equipment out of Kherson from right bank of Dnieper. The only thing we still expect them to do is to remove the three-color rags from all the administrations, from all the administrative buildings, so we just wait for them to finally leave the city. As to the creation of the so-called territorial defense, the occupants declared themselves that they keep escalating the situation, and they keep forcing people to move to the left bank of Dnieper, to left bank of Kherson region. But what happens in fact is they deport a lot of people in a forced manner to Crimea, including children. And we got information recently about the deportation of children from their fostering home in full. So it will more than 50 children in general. And now we get the information that they intend to use those deported people as the live shield. 1, 2. Mr. Serhii. Unfortunately, we have some communication issues, and our technical team is on it at the moment. We're trying to reconnect. Yeah, we're back on. Mr. Serhii, you're loud and clear. The latest narrative about the occupants that they create so-called territorial defense forces. This narrative about the creation of territorial defense forces comprising those who are left in the occupied city is an essential threat that the occupants do within the framework of this martial law that Putin implemented recently is in fact the forced mobilization of our men, and not only men who remained in the occupied Kherson. And again, this is just to frighten people, to scare them, and have them, to force them move to the left bank. Because what we expect, it can be the forced mobilization, not only military mobilization, but also labor mobilization of all the people who remain in the occupied Kherson. So probably it's the plan of the occupants, with the help of this forced mobilization of those who remained on the right bank of Kherson region, waiting for the arrival of the armed forces of Ukraine. So it's quite probable that the occupants, with the help of this information campaign, will force people to leave the right bank of Kherson region. Mr. Serhii, today we've probably seen all the mass media posting photos of empty stores in Kherson. It's probably connected to the maraudery committed by the occupants in this region. We've heard the notifications of a total absence of internet in the region. What's the situation there? How do people cope with that? Yes, that's true. The occupants completely cut the supply of any food, any products to Kherson. As I mentioned already, the fall of Russian ruble, all the stores already refused to accept ruble, and the only places who kept doing it were the big chain supermarkets. People were listening to our advice to procure food, to procure water waiting for the arrival of the Ukrainian armed forces. And I have to mention it, that these pictures of the empty shelves in the supermarkets, they're mostly the Russian chain supermarkets, and now they are already moving out their equipment. In fact, haven't stopped their operation in Kherson, but still minor stores, minor shops located in Kherson, they continue their operation, but exclusively with Ukrainian hryvnia. They still have food, they have products, and the right bank of Kherson is currently still providing itself with all the necessary supplies. However, the occupants completely prohibited any entrance to the area from the areas controlled by the Ukrainian government, having arranged the supply of the Russian products, even low quality, from both Russia and Belarus. For the time being, it doesn't exist anymore. So for the time being, Kherson is surviving by itself. Dear colleagues, your questions. Good afternoon. Ukrinform, the head of Ukrainian intelligence, Kirill Budanov, said that Russian military is preparing to the defense of Kherson, and the information about their movement to the left bank is an information operation. Do you share the same opinion? And another question, is the kidnapping of Ukrainian citizens still in progress in Kherson region? Can you comment on this? Yes, I've obviously seen the information by Kirill Budanov, and obviously the head of intelligence knows the situation way better. But as to the street skirmishes, what Budanov is talking about, these street skirmishes is the purpose of the occupants, and they will hold on to the city by any cost, and that's actually the information promulgated by the occupants within the last week. It was exactly the occupants who created the panics to force the people to move to the left bank, scaring and frightening the people with the possible shellings of the residential areas and the destruction of Kakhovska hydraulic power plant. So if the occupants are capable of maintaining the street skirmishes, the military operations in the city itself, I don't have any confirmation of this information. And talking about the things happening in fact in Kherson region is indeed the movement of all the material and equipment to the left bank of Kherson. However, there are still units on the right bank who cover this operation of deportation and pillaging of the city, who still hold on to the right bank of Kherson. But the fact with the situation with the logistics and the fact that all the doctors, all the medical personnel and technical personnel is being of the occupants is being evacuated to the left bank, means that for example, the wounded occupants would not be able to be transported to the hospitals. They would be first in need to be evacuated to the left bank. And my personal opinion is that they would not be able to hold on to the right bank. And another question, dear colleagues, about the kidnapping of the people. Yes, the kidnapping is still in progress. And we've seen a lot of this happening specifically in the left bank. In the left bank, the occupants keep kidnapping people, and we witness the kidnapping of of a married couple in Skadovsk, and on the very next day, the woman of this married couple was found hung just for having said that Skadovsk is Ukraine. So we witnessed the occupants continuing their terroristic actions, including kidnapping the people in the occupied territories. Mr. Serhii, question about the explosion which happened in Kherson lately. We know that it was an improvised explosive device. Do you know anything about that? Yes, the improvised explosive device detonated with the help of a distance transmitter, and the occupants started spreading information that it was a terroristic action committed by the Ukrainian special forces teams. So, but in my opinion, our forces work in a more sophisticated way, and it was the provocation by the occupants and which was part of all this information campaign, of the information they spread it about the possible shellings of the residential areas. And again, in my opinion, this is to stimulate the people to this forced deportation. Mr. Serhii, about the forced deportation, another question. The people moving to the other bank of Dnieper, do they have an opportunity to stay there in the left bank without moving to Crimea? Is it possible for them, or are they forced to go to Crimea? You know, now we really don't have cell phone communication, we don't have internet there. The only option is to call through Russian cell carrier. I don't use this way of communication, but the last time I had an opportunity to communicate with the people there, for what I know, the occupants did not force anybody yet. Within the first day, they only sent about 1,000 people from the left bank, and those people were mostly the collaborationists. They evacuated the medical personnel and the teachers who were brought to Kherson earlier. However, the majority of people still remain on the left bank. They look for their relatives, friends. They stay in their country houses, and there is a lot of people relocated to the left bank who remain there. Unfortunately, there are still problems with internet and cell phone connection, which kind of impedes us from obtaining current information from Kherson. Mr. Serhii, thank you very much for joining us. I will remind you, we will have our next briefing at 1300, and we will talk about the situation in Odessa region. Stay with us and let's work for the victory together.